This is chapter 31 of Legend, Day. When June visits me again the next morning, even she looks shocked, if just for a second, at my figure, slumped against one wall of my cell. I tilt my head in her direction. She hesitates at the sight of me, but quickly regains her composure. I assume you made someone angry, she says, and snaps her fingers at the soldiers. Everyone out. I want a private word with the prisoner. She nods at the security cameras positioned in each corner. And cut those too. The soldier in charge salutes. Yes, ma'am. As several of them hurry to click off the cameras, I see her take out 2 knives sheathed in her belt. Somehow I must have made her angry too. A laugh bubbles out of my throat and turns into a coughing fit. Well, I guess we should just get it all out of the way. When the soldiers leave and the door slams shut behind June, she walks over and crouches beside me. I brace myself for the feeling of the blade against my skin. Day. She hasn't moved. Instead, she puts her knives back by her belt and pulls out a canteen of water. Just a display for the soldiers, I guess. She splashes some of the cool liquid on my face. I flinch, but then I open my mouth to catch some of it. Water never tasted so good. June squirts some water directly into my mouth, then puts the canteen away. Your face looks awful. There's concern and something else in her expression. Who did this to you? Nice of you to ask. I'm amazed she even cares. You can thank your captain friend for this. Thomas? That's the guy. I don't think he's very happy that I got a kiss from you and he hasn't, so he interrogated me about the Patriots. Apparently Cade's a patriot. Small world, huh? Anger flashes across June's face. He never mentioned this to me. Last night Well, I'll take it up with Commander Jameson. Thanks. I blink water out of my eyes. I was wondering when you'd come. I hesitate for a second. Do you know anything about Tess yet? If she's alive? June looks down. Sorry, she replies. I have no way of knowing where she is. She should be safe as long as she stays low. I haven't mentioned her to anyone. She hasn't appeared in any of their recent arrests or deaths. I'm frustrated by the lack of news, but relieved at the same time. How are my brothers? June tightens her lips. I have no access to Eden, although I'm sure he's still alive. John is doing as well as can be expected. When she looks up again, I see confusion and sadness in her eyes. I'm sorry you had to deal with Thomas yesterday. Thanks, I guess, I whisper. Is there any particular reason why you're nicer than usual today? I don't expect June to take this question seriously, but she does. She stares at me and then seats herself in front of me with her legs folded underneath her. She seems different today. Subdued, maybe. Even sad. Uncertain. An expression I've never seen before, even when I first met her on the streets. Something bothering you? June stays silent for a long while with her eyes cast down. Finally, she looks at me. She's searching for something, I realize. Is she trying to find a way to trust me? I stated my brother's crime scene report again last night. Her voice trickles to a whisper so that I have to lean forward to hear her. And, I say. June's eyes search mine. She hesitates again. Day, can you say, honestly and truly, that you didn't kill Midas? She must have found something. She wants a confession. The night at the hospital flashes through my thoughts. My disguise. Midas watching me as I entered the hospital. The young doctor I'd held hostage. The bullets bouncing off the refrigerators. My long fall to the ground. Then the face-off with Midas, the way I'd thrown my knife at him. I had seen it hit his shoulder, so far from his chest that it couldn't possibly have killed him. I hold June's gaze with my own. I did not kill your brother. I reach out to touch her hand and wince at the pain that shoots up my arm. I don't know who did. I'm sorry for injuring him at all, but I had to save my own life. I wish I'd had more time to think it through. June nods quietly. The look on her face is so heartbreaking that I wish for a second that I could hold her. Someone needs to hold her. I really miss him, she whispers. I thought he would be around for a long time, you know? Someone I could always lean on. He was all I had left, and now he's gone. I wish I knew why. She shakes her head slowly as if defeated, and then lets her eyes meet mine again. Her sadness makes her impossibly beautiful, like snow blanketing a barren landscape. I don't know why. That's the worst part, Day. I don't know why he died. Why would someone want him dead? Her words are so similar to my thoughts about my mother that I can barely breathe. I didn't know that June had lost her parents, although I should have guessed it from the way she carries herself. June was not the one who shot my mother. She was not the one who brought the plague into my home. She was a girl who'd lost her brother, and someone had led her to believe I did it, and in anguish she had tracked me down. If I'd been in her place, would I have done anything differently? She's crying now. I give her a small smile, then sit up straighter and stretch my hand towards her face. The shackles on my wrist clank together. I wipe away the tears from under one of her eyes. Neither of us says anything. There's no need to. She's thinking, if I'm right about her brother, then what else am I right about? After a moment, June takes my hand and holds it against her cheek. Her touch sends warmth coursing through me. She's so lovely. I ache to pull her to me now and press my lips against hers and wash away the sorrow in her eyes. I wish I could go back to that night in the alley for just 1 second. I'm the first one to speak. And you and I may have the same enemy, I say, and they've pitted us against each other. June takes a deep breath. I'm not sure yet, she says, even though I can tell by her voice that she agrees with me. It's dangerous for us to talk like this. She looks away, reaches into her cloak, and pulls out something I thought I had lost at the hospital. Here, I want to give this back to you. I have no more use for it. I want to snatch it from her hand, but the chains wear me down. In her palm is my pendant necklace, the smooth bumps on its surface, scraped and dirty, but still more or less whole, the necklace part laying in a pile in her palm. You had it, I whisper. You found it at the hospital that night, didn't you? That's how you recognized me when you finally found me. I must have reached for it. June nods quietly, then takes my hand and drops the pendant into my palm. I look at it and wonder. My father. I can't keep the memory of him away, now that I'm staring at my pendant again. I think back to the day he visited us after 6 months without a word. When he was safely inside and we draped curtains over the windows, he wrapped his arms around Mom and kissed her for such a long time. He kept one hand pressed protectively on her stomach. John waited patiently to greet him, hands in his pockets. I was still young enough to hug his leg. Eden wasn't born yet. He was still inside Mom's growing belly. How are my boys? My father said after he finally let go of Mom. He patted my cheek and smiled at John. John gave him a hug, a big, toothy grin. He had managed to grow his hair long enough to tie it back in a tail. He held up a certificate. Look, he said, I passed my trial. You did. My father clapped John on the back and shook his hand as if he were a man. I can still remember the relief in his eyes, the tremor of joy in his words. Back then, we all worried that John would be the one to fail the trial, considering his trouble with reading. I'm proud of you, Johnny. Good job. Then he looked at me. I remember studying his face. Dad's official job in the Republic was to clean up after the war front soldiers, of course, but there was always hints that this wasn't the only job he had. Hints like the stories he sometimes told about the colonies and their glittering cities, their advanced technology and festive holidays. At that moment, I wanted to ask him why he was always gone, even after his war front rotation should have returned him home, why he never came to see us. But something else distracted me. There's something in your vest pocket, Dad, I said. Sure enough, a circular bump was pressed against the cloth. He chuckled and took out the object. So there is, Daniel. He glanced up at our mother. He's very perceptive, isn't he? Mom smiled at me. My father hesitated, then ushered us all into the bedroom. Grace, he said to Mom, look what I found. She studied it closely. What is it? It's more proof. At first, my father tried to show it only to Mom, but I managed to get a good look as he turned it over in his hands. A bird on one side, a man's profile on the other. United States of America, In God We Trust, $quarter, embossed on one side, and Liberty in 1990 on the other. See? Evidence. He pressed it into her palm. Where did you find this? Mom asked. In the southern swamplands between the two war fronts. It's a genuine coin from 1990. See the name? United States. It was real. My mother's eyes gleamed with excitement, but she still gave Dad a grave look. This is a dangerous thing to own, she whispered. We're not keeping this in our house. My father nodded. But we can't destroy it. We have to safeguard it. For all we know, this might be the last coin of its kind in the world. He folded my mother's fingers over the coin. I'll make a metal casing for it, something that covers both sides. We'll weld it shut so the coin's secure inside. What will we do with it? Hide it somewhere. My father paused for a second, then looked at John and me. Best place might be somewhere obvious to everyone. Give it to one of the boys, maybe as a locket. People will think it's just a child's ornament, but if soldiers find it in the house in a raid, hidden under some floorboard, they'll know for sure that it's important. I stayed silent. Even at that age, I understood my father's concern. Our house had been searched on routine inspections by troops before, just like every other house in our street. If Dad hid it somewhere, they'd find it. My father left early the next morning before the sun even rose. We could see him only one more time after that. Then he never came home again. This memory flashes through my mind in an instant. I look up at June. Thank you for finding this. I wonder if she can hear the sadness in my voice. Thank you for giving it back to me.